This is a special segment that brings you some things that you need to know. And today we'll be looking at access to justice, and it's powered by PPDC, that's the Public Private Development Center. And today on the program, I already have someone that will be giving us more details in respect of what we'll be talking about as regards access to justice and, of course, criminal justice in Nigeria. I have Ahmed Mohammed with me this morning. Ahmed, you're looking lovely this morning. How are you?
Hello, Anis, and hello, Kaduna.
Yeah, hope you're good.
Perfect.
All right. So let's get talking. I will start off by first giving us an overview of what PPDC does, access to justice in Nigeria. Let's start from there before we take it on.
Yeah, surely. Hello, Kaduna. The Public and Private Development Center is actually a non-profit outfit, and what we do basically is to support reformers, especially by in government or out of government,
Hmm.
to drive significant reforms across different sectors.
Okay.
I'm sure when the listeners heard of BUDESHI, their mind went to procurement because that's what
Yeah.
we do for quite a long time until you mentioned that this access to justice.
Yes.
So recently, you also took the BUDESHI concept into the access to justice conversation.
Oh,
And we've been supporting the domestic government in the past 2 years to improve the justice sector, especially regarding court administration and case management. And in the next few years, we'll also now be looking to trial division and how best we can reform the system.
okay.
That's what we've been doing.
I'm sure Nigerians know that that specific area needs a whole lot of reform. And I'm sure before we are done with the program today, we'll first of all understand what PPDC is doing in that area. And also, we would also have some other inklings to what it's all about. Now, looking at our subject of discussion of this morning, we would like to start with how is PPDC actively involved in reshaping the administration and management of criminal justice in Nigeria.
Yes.
Just give us more insight into that.
Yeah, surely. To start with, first, it's very important to acknowledge the actors, the statutory actors in this very key system. Who are the statutory actors? Starting with the judiciary itself, taking law enforcement agencies like the Nigerian Police Force, like the Department of Security, like the DSS, like the NDAD, and a lot of other law enforcement agencies.
Mm.
It's also very important to recognize the role of Ministry of Justice because they are, we used to call them the attorney of the state. They are the law firm of the state. So what PPDC have been doing recently is to support all of these key stakeholders to improve what they are doing. Part of our key approach is we normally don't have an agenda, but they have their own reform commitment and they have their own reform agenda. And what we normally do is to support their own key reform agenda. And why is that important? Because they have been there for quite a long time. Let me say from existence, and they are going to stay there forever. PPDC projects can come and go. We could change our strategy, but those key institutions are there forever, and that's why we don't just do it. We support them to do it better. And part of the lessons we've learned about supporting them is as time goes on, they're able to do that more effectively. They're able to understand it. They're able to sustain it. And they're able to infuse all of those learnings into their key programs. And that have actually supported them to do better. Our started seeing some results and will continue to have just on those very key results for key service improvements.
Okay, thank you so very much. And from what you've said now, you PPTC have been involved in helping them to improve on those areas that they want to strengthen. Now, what are some of the specific gaps that you have seen in the current justice administration, and what has PPDC identified as the focal points for reforms?
Yes, let me start with something that's very notable. Case management conversations.
Okay.
For example, there's this adage we usually talk about that whichever case file you see is actually representing someone's life. Conversation around criminal justice and why it's very, very tricky is you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt because you can either make someone's life or you must someone's life. So there are a lot of procedures in there, and you need to be very, very judicious. Or else, because part of the biggest fear is when you take someone who's innocent and you time him as not innocent, you've already wasted his life.
Yeah.
So part of the key things that we'll continue to converse is could we start taking case management very important. And where does case management start? It starts from the police, from the very first point of investigation, from conversation around the FIR, up to the Ministry of Justice, up to the courts, up to the corrections. So we felt it's very important when we improve how we manage case file. And now not just case file, the case system in its entirety. Because when one person fails to do what he's supposed to do, it affects the other one. When a police prosecutor fails to do what he's supposed to do, it affects the Ministry of Justice for them to give legal advice. It affects the court, it affects the corrections. And at the end, we find it being a chain. So we felt it's very important to support the reform agenda of the state on conversation around case management. And what have we done in that very key regard? First is to support the judiciary to standardize the process manually. For example, especially for the magistrate corps. Presently, we've been able to support 25 magistrate corps as a pilot to see how best can we improve the manual cases. Because part of our learning is if you then have a good manual system, even if you digitize the system, you're only digitizing the wrong system. Because majorly, when we talk about technology, it's not an end on itself. It's actually a means to itself. So when you have a POS system, all you're doing is you're transferring that POS system into a digital system, and you continue that. Yeah. So first, what we did is to support these magistrate courts to first improve their manual case system. And the intention is in the long run, we're going to further digitize that very key system. But for the high courts, because it's actually a court of record, when we did the need assessment, we understood they were a little bit better when it comes to the manual system. And part of the thing we did is to shift them to the digital system. Definitely, as also a learning point, because we're not discarding the manual system presently. What we're doing is trying to go hybrid to learn. Maybe subsequently, when we're very sure that we have a foolproof digital system, and then we can convert and say, okay, we're going paperless. So for the high courts, presently we've supported 16 high courts with a case management system, a digital case management system, which gives almost all key stakeholders ability to work on that very system, including assignment of case by the Honorable CJ, taking of court proceedings and summary at the individual court. So at least gives people the ability to do that. And also a scheduling. Part of the key thing we understood is court is supposed to sit or it's not supposed to sit. There are governments or there are not. And at times that also becomes very tedious. So part of the component of that case management is to give scheduling, send an email, and there's also a plugin for SMS, which all parties can be notified quickly to say, oh, your court appearance is in this very date. So that's the case system, that's the case management system. And it has proven to be helpful. And we've continued to, because actually a learning process for everyone. It's going to take time. There's a digital divide. But we intend that we're going to continue to support the state through this very key learning process. And so our intention that subsequently we're going to get adapted to that. And it's going to be part of our very key system. And that's for case management. For records management, for example, there's a form. Usually when you fill and they say, have you ever been criminally convicted? And I know all Nigerians will say no. Yes, because nobody has a record. There's no database which you can actually check vis-a-vis. Oh, he has actually been convicted. And something, because of about this as a criminal, something we piloted is to say, okay, can we take up those criminal cases? Can we digitize those criminal systems? Can we create a registry with those criminal systems where immediately a criminal case has been closed, those criminal case files can come back here and we can have a database It's also a learning process because we're starting. So what we intended is the next few years when I have a database, for example, of it, all people that have been criminally convicted.
Yeah.
There's a place where someone can, oh, let me go back to this very key database to check in. Whereas the biggest problem is people are convicted for criminal things and then they go scot-free. What I mean by they go scot-free is after serving their own sentence, other key things
No
that
other
are supposed to
consequences.
no other consequences for that. So and we have a lot of conversation because it's criminal where you come and files are missing, a lot of things are happening, mysterious things are happening, and you can't fall back to that. And because their papers, as time goes on, they become readable. A lot of things happen to that, and that's why we're also checking to the component around digitizing some of this very key stuff. At least have a digital component where you can always refer back to them as we go to go for that. And a lot of other key interventions is that very critical.
Okay. Yes, you're listening to BUDESHI Radio, and today we are looking at access to justice and the criminal justice system in Nigeria. And I have with me in the studio Ahmed Mohammed. He's been giving us some insight into what PPDC is doing in and around all of these. And still talking about digitizing the system and the fact that most of them are not in Nigeria. When somebody commits a crime, after serving his term, the other consequences that should come as a result of what you've done, they escape it. I can also quickly make reference to I had a schoolmate then way back, not to prison about 2 or 3 times. One time that I would travel to visit my folks, I had a guy, it's like a police officer. If there were records of his criminal past, I'm sure there was no way a thing like that could have happened. And
Who are partners, people who do the work, who are in the job, people who do the actual work. The IPOs, for example, now, as common as you want to call them, the IPOs, the magistrates, the high court judges, the police, the corrections, and a lot of other key stakeholders, because it's actually a multi-stakeholder approach. You can't solve criminal justice with one person. And something about the system is interlinked. One, you work, it affects another person's work. So if you do a good work, it affects the next person's work. And it keeps going like that. So we've been able to collaborate both horizontally and vertically with all of these very key stakeholders. And especially as I mentioned, with the approach of the immediate of those very key, and also only supporting the little push that we can. And something very uniquely is we've seen a lot of these partners, these collaborators, taking leadership in the whole of the sector. Most of the time, they even tell us, oh, we did this away from our own support. And that's something we're very, very appreciative about that. We do ABC, and you see them doing EFG without even waiting for you. You see them appreciating that very key support. And we've seen a lot of instances where that actually helped. For example, the magistrates now, there's something very unique about what Kaduna, for example, our very developers. Even before we came in, there's something they usually do. When we are talking about scheduling, normally courts have WhatsApp group as basic as WhatsApp where they post this very key information. So if as a lawyer you're standing for a court, you automatically just join that very group. So where all other updates, for example, when the judge is sitting and when it's not, all other key information are shared on that very group. So that's innovation. That's low cost innovation, low cost interventions. And we've seen a lot of these key interventions across all the very key stakeholders. For example, legal advice is part of the key thing that almost everyone is complaining about when we talk about the criminal justice system. So, oh, took the case file. Police would say, we'll take the case file to the justice. Are waiting for legal advice. But the legal advice would take time, long time. Even though the administrative criminal justice does that, legal advice will be ready. This. We've had instances before now where 2 years, 3 years, at times the legal advice will never come. And we've seen concrete commitments from the Ministry of Justice, led by the Attorney General, to say, oh, these are our very key reform agenda. These are the things we envision to do, or we're going to do better. And even when this legal advice took a lot of time, we actually sent in a petition. For example, recently, the day before yesterday, we had access to justice, but we made broader level of stakeholders, both vertically and horizontally, to have a conversation, a generic conversation around what are the priorities of the judiciary, what are the priorities of the Ministry of Justice, what are the priorities of the police, the correction, and all other key stakeholders. And part of the key concrete commitments we even had from the CJs, the Kaduna State Judiciary is going to assign some courts, such as the criminal courts.
Okay.
And why is that important? At least I know it's going to improve the speed of these very trials. When this court is majorly for criminal cases, at least you know all courts, all cases that are here are criminal.
Yeah.
So it gives that sense of urgency. It's also reduce the pressure. Because when you have a judge sitting, criminal sitting, civil, all that, other things, you can imagine how much work that could be. So that's a commitment that the judiciary have made, and we're going to follow up on that very already have started conversation of that nature. For example, yes, cases, ICPC cases are already assigned to a particular court.
Okay.
So we've already been achieving progress in that regard. But now we'll also assign those very courts. We are very optimistic that that's going to help, and we're willing to support them to make that a reality.
All right. So looking at, because we do not have so much time on our hands again, we'd like to have some examples of successful outcomes of improvement resulting from PPDC's initiatives in criminal justice administration. And have that too briefly.
Yeah, briefly. For example, Parliament courts, in 3 courts, we were able to deploy a speech to text system. And what does it do, basically? It helps transcribe, record, video, audio, and also transcribe court proceedings.
Just a minute. Just the way we see it in other clients where the person just speaks endlessly.
Yeah.
And the speech is converted to text, and they're okay.
We're
getting there gradually.
Yes, well, we're getting there. For example, recently when we had a course, one of the magistrates we was using that very case, he told us there was a time when councils were there and he said something and then he denied it. And then all he said was, please play back the video.
Yeah.
And let me see it. It was clear. So you could see how important that is. For example, as at yesterday, almost 326 cases have that system have been used for 326 cases. I could see the speed of that. Before you come in a day, how many cases can you actually take in? So because you have that system, it allows you to take more cases, which also supports the system. Because the dockets are also always full.
Yes.
So you have the judges, have magistrates taking a whole lot of cases. And that's why at times you take adjournments 3 months, 4 months, at times a year, based on the nature of the case.
And may God help you, you're not a remand.
Thank you.
The crime of just
May God help
3
you.
months,
Yes.
and you're looking about 2 years to eventually be found justice. Even when you are found guilty, you've done your time about 4 or 5 times over.
So you could see instances of that nature. So the speech text has been able to at least have a judge is able to take more cases. Right. And it's faster, more judicious. And the part of the thing we intend to do as we go further is to also connect that speech text system to do corrections. And this is our innovation. What are we trying to do? For example, when we talk about with corrections, right, like Nigerian Correctional Service, part of the key challenges around logistics.
Okay.
They have a lot of courts which they are servicing, and the vehicles are less, and come to think of it, the cost of fuel now. And something we're trying to do now is to set up a virtual system where inmates can appear before a judge virtually. It's a proof of concept. We've tried it in other states, which we're also supporting, because we're also supporting the National State Government, also the Plateau State Government, which is similar. And those 2 states that have already been deployed, and we've seen it real time, and it's actually helped. The intention is when you have more people able to join it virtually, it will also speed up the very key process. We intend to do that as we continue to go further. I hope to see much of this very key result as we continue to do that.
All right. Maybe we'll open up the phone lines and see if we can take a call or two. 080 081 40,000 989 and 070 87 800 989. And the studio lines to Dial if you have a question or you need more clarifications on what we've been talking about on BUDESHI Radio this morning. The numbers again are 081 40,000 989 and 070 87 800 989. While waiting for the calls to come in, we would also quickly want to say, looking ahead, what future plans and initiatives does PPDC have to further advance its mission in transforming the criminal justice landscape in Nigeria?
Yes, something we look forward to doing in the next 3 years for now is to reform the pretrial detention system.
Okay.
And what is happening? Almost 70% of people who have been held inmates are actually pretrial. And what does pretrial mean? Pretrial means people who are there and they're not there because they are convicted. They're there awaiting judgment.
What we popularly call remand.
So, and when you have 70% of the whole people who are being held to be pretrial, it shows that it's actually a problem. And what do we intend to do? We intend to support also the broader level stakeholders, to support the corrections themselves, to improve something they call SIMS, which is Correction Information Management System. And what does that do? It's just also a digital system which gives as basic as biometric. When we watch American films and you see someone being held, the first thing is they snap a picture and your fingerprints.
Yeah.
That's something of that nature. And also the system is going to also have other components, for example, for legal representation, family, for health. Because a lot of people are actually being held and they have terminal illness. And it's causing a lot of problems, even for the corrections, for themselves, and also for the community. Why this is where inmates are lost because of the very poor health. And we're also willing to support the magistrates and also the budgets to also perform their statutory duties. For example, based on the SGL, the magistrate are supposed to visit police stations because police officers also do hold people for quite a long time. And the SGL provides that the magistrates should do periodic visits to these police stations and also ensure that these things are straight up. And so we also intend to do is to work with the Nigerian Youth Service Hub. Right?
Okay.
And also pro bono lawyers to provide legal representation. And something that's very clear about all this, and we keep emphasizing on this, we're not trying to say people should not be held. Never. We're not trying to say people should not be convicted. Never. What we're saying is the right people should be convicted.
Yeah.
What we're saying is the right process should be followed. Simple as that.
That no innocent person should suffer for what he or she did not do. Yes, you're listening to BUDESHI Radio right on the 98.9 FM. And on the program today, we are looking at access to justice and the criminal justice system. And the guest that I have today is Ahmed Mohammed. He's been telling us all that PPDC has been doing in and around the access to justice and criminal justice system. You have a call, you have a question to ask, or you want to know more, you have just like a minute or two to quickly do that. 081 40,000 989 and 070 87 800 989 are the numbers to dial. And of course, we'll quickly also have the handles of PPDC, so that even if you have questions after the program or you want to know more about PPDC and what we have talked about today, you just either visit X at them or tweet at them now.
Yeah. So for PPDC, as I mentioned, PPDC means Public and Private Development Center.
Yeah.
And it's basically example on Facebook, there's PPDC.
PPDC.
NG.
Okay, PPDC NG.
Yeah.
There's a space between the NG and PPDC.
No, just
PPDC NG.
That's
okay.
That is it. And the same thing with also our the same thing with Snapchat. Sorry, with Instagram. But for Instagram, PPDC underscore NG.
PPDC underscore NG for Instagram.
Yeah. And same thing with Twitter, which is now called X.
So Twitter, or for X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram, is PPDC_MG. For Facebook, is PPDC_MG. Why not go and follow them and aspect of what PPDC does? And of course, Budeshi's Radio is powered by